speaking of pretty entertaining, the Canes have been pretty entertaining. A couple of wins over the weekend. Some updates from today's today's practice for the Canes, and most of these come from Walt Ruff, Canes team reporter. Pyotr Kochetkov and Jacob Slavin on the ice with the team.
Kotkaniemi, I practiced too.
Kotkaniemi in a regular sweater, not in a no contact. So he's in the mix, in the mix. Slavin was still in the no contact sweater, but I want to say that was the first time in 2 months that he's been with the team skating. He skated by himself a little bit. Yeah,
since the second game of the season.
So
he had 2 months ago.
Sight for sore eyes, Jacob Slavin, even out at practice. Just a wonderful bit of news to spark joy on a Tuesday morning. Again, they don't play till Thursday, and just because he skates with the team on Tuesday doesn't mean he's back and ready to roll. But got to be closer than he was, right? There's got to be a sign of good things coming. And then Pyotr Kochetkov, as I mentioned, he was out on the ice as well. He's been on and off the ice this year, dealing with some lower body stuff. And then Kotkaniemi, as you brought up, no contact jersey, regular sweater today. We also have some audio for you to update. Rod Brind'Amour talking about Slavo, Jacob Slavin, out there with the team.
I don't think Slavo's too close yet, but I think it's great to see him. I think that's his first practice with us, so it would be nice to get him in a real jersey and real thinking he was close, but I think at least steps in the right direction.
Step in the right direction. I think that's a good way to describe it, right? Like I said, it's not a guarantee that he's back, not a guarantee that he's back anytime soon, but it's a good sight. Such a good sight that they started experimenting. They threw Jordan Staal on the power play unit. Do you think that was partially Rod just knew Slavin was going to be skating, so he was skipping around the halls like, let's try something new. Jordo, you want to be on power play 1? Let's go crazy today. Slavin's on the ice. Maybe. It turns out, as Rod explained after the practice, they're experimenting a little demo just to kind of try one specific play. Could be, for the lacrosse fans out there, maybe a little face-off get-off. They have not been good in power play face-off, so perhaps Staal would try to win the face-off and then immediately clear for someone like Blake or Ehlers.
Going into the game Wednesday last week, I went through the first 22 games of the season. Granted, I may have missed a face-off or two, but they were 44%, or just over 44% on power play face-offs this season, the Canes were.
That is not great.
No.
Not great, Bob. Yeah, so if they can finagle something just to spark the power play, particularly on the faceoffs, maybe that's the move. Maybe it's Jordan Staal, and maybe he could be. He is. Occasionally, I think people forget he's a big dude. If he wants to go be a little net front presence, create some screens and just be physical, that could work, right? They'll never hurt for skill on their power play with the other guys out there skating. So we'll see how that all goes. And that brings us to the question of the day, maybe the question of the next couple of months. It is, I don't even want to call it a first-class problem. What do you do with the goalies? Right, Brandon Bussi is making it a bit more confusing because when you had Freddie Anderson, you had Pyotr Kochetkov, you only had to worry about, one guy or at a time not playing great, or if one guy catches fire, how much do you rest the other? Like there's 1A, 1B is or 1 and 2 is much easier than 1A, 1B, 1C or 1, 2, and 3, right? Another name in the mix. So Brandon Bussi is complicating things by playing well. That's the first class problem of it. The other side of that coin is kind of, I'll use a quarterback cliche from the football world that I come from. When you have two quarterbacks, you have none. That's an old cliche. Like, if you think, I got two guys that are exactly the same, you probably don't have any, right? That just means nobody's grabbed the job by the horns and made it theirs. And I think, for the most part, the goalies have not done that. And everybody wants Freddie to, right? Everybody wanted Freddie Anderson to come out this year and just be goalie 1, especially when Pyotr Kochetkov was hurt, and just nobody's taken me out of net, but it hasn't happened. Pyotr Kochetkov has played really well, but he's been hurt. Brandon Bussey's played well, but he's a journeyman minor leaguer just making his first appearances in the NHL. How much do you just go, well, perfect, that's going to last forever? It's a really confusing place to be on a team that quite frankly has most other things kind of handled when healthy, which just, it's going to up the scrutiny on the goalies, right? If they weren't scoring, if the defense was poor, if your fourth line was unplayable, then we'd have to divide up all of our attention on trying to fix all of those things. But with the way the roster is now and the way the goalies have complicated things, there's just going to be a lot of spotlights on that position and a lot of conversation and a lot of discourse, and they're not going to be able to just, we'll wait it out and let's see. Like, every decision they make is going to be heavily, heavily scrutinized. For example, like I use this from I actually use this in my cross-sport analogies elsewhere. When Rod Brind'Amour spoke with Adam Gold on Kane's Corner podcast before the season, and he was kind of giving Adam a hard time, and he said, like, you guys dissect my line decisions way more than I do. Sometimes I get a question in the post game about, why did you skate these two guys together? He's like, he broke a skate lace and he couldn't go back out there for the next shift. So I just put someone else out there, and now you guys have think pieces about it. And it's literally just his skate lace broke. That's how goaltender is going to be dealt with for the rest of the year. Right? If somebody wakes up and they're sick, if somebody, has a bruise and they don't get their spot in the rotation, we're going to be like, oh, changing the hierarchy of goalies. Right? Brandon Bussey played back-to-back games. How many conversations have true Canes fans had about that already?
A lot.
A whole bunch. And it could have literally just been like, Piotr still hurt. Freddie thought they needed a reset or whatever, right? Could have been anything. Then Bussey played well, got a shutout in the game. And now is Bussey rising in the ranks? Can you? Actually, this will be a question for you, Dennis. Can you go with the rotation or the goalie situation of, we're going to play the hot hand until he cools off, and then we're going to see if anyone else is hot, and we're going to keep playing them until they cool off? Can you do that with 2.5 goalies? I don't even know, for 3 goalies?
No, it's 3. I mean, Bussey's earned the right to be up here.
Exactly. But how much do you play him becomes a question.
I mean, well, first of all, again, all guys have to be healthy. Because, again, that's the key thing about this. Because as of right now, Kochetkov isn't available, so you rotate until you actually face that problem.
Because earlier in the season when Kochetkov was out, it was Freddie until it was obvious, back-to-back or something, or a long road trip, you had to throw Bussey in there. Is it – because we've seen the 1-1-1-1 rotation. Like, is Bussey – has he earned the right to be that involved?
Maybe.
I
think he's been their most consistent goalie this season. I mean, until
when it comes
he
to
shows
availability and
performance. Yeah. He's been their most consistent goalie this season. I don't know. That's tough. Like, how much net is going to be available, especially when you hit January. For example, it's going to be like Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, that's going to be your schedule going forward. I mean, do you want goalies to sit there just for maybe a week at times? Because then how do you get into a rhythm as a goaltender? That's the difficult thing that they're going to have to try and balance out as well. But we also know the injury history of Kochetkov and of Anderson. So you can't risk trying to send Bussey back down to Chicago through waivers.
Not.
Someone's going to pick him up. Plain and simple. It's a delicate balance. It really is.
And yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. And we did this with defensemen earlier this year, where you have all these talks about pairings and who's going to skate offhanded, and then injuries happen, and it's moot for the first 2 months of the season. So we'll debate the goalies, especially with Kochetkov back at practice today. It's like it's a decision that's looming, not a decision that's, hey, one day we might have to deal with this. But it could be decided like by default if somebody deals with something lower body. We never get any details. But I'm fascinated. I'm going to be paying attention, and every time they go out there for morning skate on game day and you get the so-and-so's in the starter's crease, I'm going to go, whoa! Even if it's exactly what I predicted. I'm going to react that way intentionally.